Hi, Sue. Hi.
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back.
Dennis.
Hi,
Mr.
Dennis.
Dykert.
How are we today, guys?
Very well.
We're good. Can you hear me too? I'm just using my
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Yes.
iPhone. Okay. Thank you.
All right. For those who just logged on, just so you know, the YouTube live streaming is actually starting at 6:55.
That should be now.
Oh, yeah, so that's
It's on
so
now.
we
right
may
now.
you can see it now.
Is Diana here yet?
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Dykert.
How are you?
I'm well.
Quick question. I did not. The agenda gets sent out. I mean, I got your paperwork on the. I got your paperwork on the slideshow.
Yeah, it's posted on Board Docs. Would you like me to email it?
I would appreciate that, Diana. How'd you guess?
Okay, let me get in there.
I had Lori send me a hard copy.
I always like hard copies.
Me too. Old school.
All right, so for those who just joined, just to let you know, we have started the live streaming on YouTube. We wanted to make sure that was up and running at the start of the meeting, so you are being broadcast at the moment to the world, just so you know.
You know what, Dennis? You can go to our website,
Okay.
okay, and go under Board of Education. You can see the agenda there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we are waiting for Mr. Padavani.
Is Mrs. Parker?
Mrs. Parker. Send her another. And it is best, of course, to keep your microphone off as much as you possibly can.
I think people hit hang up rather than mute.
Oh, I can't hear.
No one's talking, Hillary, so
Okay.
Diana. Hello. Diana.
Diana, you're muted.
How about now?
Diana, you're muted. Oh,
Here,
there you are.
I was muted. Sorry about that.
There we are. What did I do here now? Hold on.
Under district, then Board of Education.
No, I have in the front the statement from the governor, and unable to get into our page. Important message is blocking me from getting into the ECCRSD.us.
I think at the bottom of that message, Mr. Reichert, there is a little button that might say, "Okay, got it." If you click on that, I believe it'll allow you to get into the website.
I was hoping.
So district website,
Oh,
district,
there we go. Wait a minute. Hold on, hon.
across the top it says district.
Yeah, I know how to get into that part. I've done that before. So I refresh the page, and it comes up quickly, but so this message from the governor, and I don't have anywhere to.
At the bottom, Dennis, there's a message.
There it is. Okay,
Okay, got it.
There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, wouldn't let me in before.
Okay, I believe everyone is here and we're ready to go. We are already live streaming on YouTube, so everyone do be aware of that. So this meeting will be a little different. One, we have the budget presentation first, that has its own public comment section. And then we have the two public comment sections during the meeting itself. And we will pause at those opportunities should anyone in the public, in the community, wish to call in and join with a question. And it is best if you do keep your microphone off as much as you can, especially when the presentations are going. And certainly, if you want to wave and give any signals to us and turn your microphones on, absolutely go right ahead. But I think we are ready to start, Mr. DeCicco.
Good morning. Hello.
Yep.
Yes.
We're all set. We're all set, Bob. Bob.
Okay. Here you come to order, please. Mrs. Schiraldi, would you please read the open public meeting statement and the flag salute?
Yes. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Eastern Camden County Regional School District has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the 3 municipal buildings of the constituent districts, in the board secretary's office, and notification forwarded to the Courier Post and the Philadelphia Inquirer. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bob, your mic is muted. Mr. DeCicco, your mic is muted.
Mr. DeChico, are you ready? Your microphone. His connection may be a little.
You want to try to use the chat feature? Type on something?
It looks like he's freezing up.
He's no longer on my screen.
There.
Okay?
Yep.
I'm
Yes.
back on, I think. I keep losing the picture and the audio, so. Roll call, please. Hello?
I hear you, Bob.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown,
Present.
Mr. Campbell,
Here.
Mrs. Chow,
Here.
Mrs. David,
Here.
Mr. Dykert. Mr. Dykert, Mrs. Gar,
Maybe
Present.
Go direct to the internet.
Mrs. Parker,
Here.
Mr. Paul,
Here.
Mr. DeChico.
Here. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 18th meeting, please?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? And roll call.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Chow,
Yes.
Mrs. David,
Yes.
Mr. Dykert, Mrs. Gar,
Yes.
Mrs. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Paul,
Yes.
Mr. DeChico.
Yes. Thank you.
And yes for me. Yes for me too.
And Mr. Dykert is back, I believe.
I'm here. Yes for both questions.
Thank you.
Roll call and minutes.
Great, thank you. And there is no current communications at this time, Mr. DeChico.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report, there are no HIB cases to report for the month of April. In terms of activities for the month, they have been attuned to all the changes to remote learning and trying to update as much as we possibly can and planning to move forward with the governor's announcement on Monday that schools are closed for the year. We are now focused on putting together guidance and certainly seeking feedback from parents and students and our teachers on how we could adapt some of the usual end of year programs and processes and the best that we possibly can. And we are open to every possibility and we're measuring our capabilities. And again, whatever possibilities that will be beneficial to our students, we're going to explore that and again, seek input from our parents and our students as we plan. So we just started, really focusing with the governor's announcement, and then the governor has extended his public health emergency into June. So that is another factor that we have to consider, and we have to stay attuned to any reopening, any phases of reopening that may impact what we're able to do on campus as well. So all of those things are from day to day being reanalyzed and all contingencies are being planned. So that's the bulk of the activity. Thank you. We may have lost Mr. DeChico again. I'll try bringing him back in.
Mr. Cloutier, he is back on and his microphone is muted as far as I can see. He joined again.
Okay. All right. I see him back on my screen now. But Mr. DeChico, are you back fully?
Yes, I
Okay.
think so.
Okay. So we are.
I keep losing the signal, so if that happens, Mr. Brown, just pick up the agenda wherever I go out. I'll just go back and forth. That should make things run a little bit smoother. Diana, do you have anything for the school business administrators report?
Yeah, just one item. I just wanted to put some thanks out to our cafeteria manager, Emily D'Angelo, the transportation staff, and the custodial staff on the lunch delivery service that they have been providing over the past few weeks of the school closure. On Monday, they delivered 345 meals to the homes of our students.
Wow.
And they're just doing a terrific job. And, we really, really appreciate all their hard work. The cafeteria staff, the transportation staff, and some of our custodians really appreciate their work. And that's the end of my report. And we'd like to just move into the public hearing of the budget.
Please do.
Thank you. Okay. So the PowerPoint presentation should be coming up on the screen. This budget, this public hearing of the budget is the final step in our budget development process, which begins in the month of October with input from our teachers, from our high school administrators, and from our public. This budget was approved by our Board of Education in March for submission to our County Superintendent of Schools, and it was approved by the County Superintendent of Schools on April 17th. This budget has been advertised in the paper on April 27th, and the advertised budget is posted on our website.
Diana, I'm sorry. I'm getting notice that your presentation is not being shared.
Okay. Do you want to put it up, Rob?
Yes,
Or
I can do
you
that.
want me to, it's on my desktop.
Let's see if it comes up.
I see it.
Yeah, starting with student fees.
Yeah, I say that. Okay, Rob, you want to start at the beginning? Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Okay.
So we're going to start off, Mr. Cloutier is going to start off with some information about our programs.
Thank you, Mrs. Schiraldi. So in building the budget, we are maintaining all of our current programs, athletic, instructional, student activities, and our staffing at this time. We are maintaining the strength of our schedule and programs for our students across the board. We certainly are continuing to analyze enrollment data, and we are near finished in terms of enrollment and course sectioning. So Mr. Susko and the guidance department working with the supervisors, and everything is moving along as scheduled. So everything is looking good for our programs for next year. For student fees, we will maintain the same level of student fees. No new fees are being imposed for next school year. There are no positions planned. Dr. Borda had presented in November our curriculum handbook with a few new courses, but with our enrollment and our programming, we are not anticipating any new full-time positions. We are, however, looking to expand a few of our existing programs into the co-curricular. First, from a student initiative, we're going to look to build our Model UN program, make it available to all of our students. So that will become a co-curricular position next year. Also, the Lifestyle Fitness Club, the class itself is extremely popular. I think every senior we've had present over the last 2 years every senior we have has presented who's mentioned that class. So that program is extremely popular, and it's supplemented with an actual club where students participate further in weekend events and challenges and other lots of interesting activities, athletic activities. So that popularity of the program is continuing to grow. And last year's budget did contain the addition of an athletic site supervisor, but we did change the description, and it's been added. So we now have a site supervisor to support our athletic programs for the 3 separate seasons that we have. So that position was fully described in this year and will continue into next year. Our initiatives, again, we're continuing to build the strength of our Option 2 program with College at Eastern. So Camden County College courses this year, just like us, went to remote instruction at the same time that we had moved. So that will continue. We are actually expanding our dual credit offerings, and I'll go into a little more detail with that. From a technology perspective, we are continuing with our iPad initiative, and very fortunate that we had the resources. Our students, beginning really from their descending districts to us, are very skilled with their iPads, and our teachers have grown in their strength as well. So that initiative will continue, and we'll continue to provide training for our teachers through Google or other platforms that we're really starting to use even more and more in the remote environment. And specifically, the expansion in dual enrollment, our partnership with Stockton University will grow. Currently, we have 1 course with Stockton University. That's our Holocaust and Genocide course. That's been very popular since we started that 2 years ago. Another course that Stockton offers is Topics in African American History and Culture. So that'll be a new course next year, and we have enough students who selected it that it runs as a course next year. The other dual enrollment course we're looking at is Future Teachers. That is not a new course in itself. However, we've not offered it as a dual enrollment course in prior years. So we intend to meet the qualifications of Stockton, so that will be eligible for dual enrollment credit for our students. So that will move us to having 3 courses with Stockton, which is the number of courses they offer. So very pleased with the expansion of our college credit opportunities for our students. In terms of other expenditures connected to academics and programming, this year as the cycle returns back to the math department, and with the math department, the textbooks, the real key is that it comes with online subscriptions, and they run out after 6 years. So we are due to start the subscriptions again. So that is where we're focusing, and that, again, very helpful to have those resources online for our math students. And our technology is going to continue to build its infrastructure. So Mr. Smart and the technology team, you can't say enough about how prepared we were from a resource and technological structure to be able to carry into remote learning, essentially with just the announcement. And all the work that they have done over the years and support from the board and the community has really shined during this situation. We're also adding a wood lathe to our wood shop, and hopefully our students will be back on campus in September and enjoy the tactile learning and skills that they learned in our building trades and our technology courses that is also expanded over the last few years. And we are replacing some of our athletic and grounds equipment, including golf carts. We've starting a program where the golf carts will be replaced, and some, as well as some of our grounds equipment. So Diana, I turn it back to you
Thank
for the
you.
next slide.
Thank you. And so also included in this budget are capital projects in the amount of $2.4 million. Every summer, we try to do some building repairs and major projects while the students are not in the buildings. Over the past few years, we've replaced our roofs and we've added solar panels to the roofs. So we've done some big projects. And this summer, we would like to replace 3 rooftop units in our gymnasiums. These units are end of life, no longer energy efficient, and so this really goes to our initiative of improving our energy efficiency so that we can save money on electric purchases. And so that is our big project, and that's $1.5 million in the budget. We also plan to resurface our tennis courts in a small parking area. So we've budgeted $785,000 for that project. And then there's 2 smaller projects, one in the Performing Arts Center to upgrade some of the lighting and sound systems, and then just some ventilation in one of our classrooms. The next slide talks about our state aid. The state of New Jersey informs us at the end of February every year what amount of money they are going to contribute to our budget for the following school year. And they informed us that they would be contributing a little less than $9 million. You'll see the totals on the next slide, but it's actually a decrease of $303,000 over the prior year. So that's a disappointment. There's actually a schedule, a 7-year schedule of declines to our state aid. Last year, the state passed some new legislation reallocating state aid away from districts that had declining enrollment and giving it to districts that have had increasing enrollment over the last 2 years. And unfortunately, our district is one of those that has had declining enrollment over the last 10 years to the tune of about 200 students. So some of our aid is going to be taken away. This is actually the 2nd year that this has happened. And as I said, it's a 7-year schedule. So unfortunately, our state aid is less than it was in the 9-10 school year. The state has been having their budget struggles. So state aid represents about 22% of all of our revenues. Our budget is made up of, comprised of 3 different funds on the next slide. The total budget is $40,994,390. The 3 funds are the general fund, the special revenue fund, and the debt service fund. The general fund is the largest of the 3, comprising $40,522,553. And this represents our daily operating expenses and those capital projects that I spoke about on the prior slide. The other part of the budget is the special revenue funds, and those are federal and state grants that we need to keep separate from all of the other monies so that we can report back to those agencies what those funds were used for. So our special revenues give us revenues of $471,837. And those are things like the federal IDEA grant for the Special Education Initiative, and also you may have heard it as the NCLB, No Child Left Behind federal grants for the underprivileged students. Then number 3 is the debt service fund, and this is the one good news we have every year. We're happy to say that right now we have no debt in our district. We made our last bond payment in August of 2018, so this is the 2nd budget where we didn't need to budget that. And so it's really unheard of for a school district to have no debt. But I think it's just a tribute to, this Board of Education and how they manage their finances and have done so for many, many, many years. Now, the next slide gives you an overview of all of our revenue sources and the amount that we're anticipating for the 2021 school year as compared to the current school year. And so I'll just comment on a couple of things on here. The budgeted fund balances are actually monies that we have, and those are our reserves. They're savings that have been accumulated over the past few years. The excess surplus for next year, 778,000. That's an amount that is calculated at our audit at the end of each year. The state allows us to keep 2% of our expenditures in the form of unassigned fund balance. Anything over that amount they consider as excess surplus, and we are required to appropriate that in the next year's budget as a revenue source. So those are our savings from past years. You can see that we have withdrawals from capital reserve in the amount of $2.4 million. That's to pay for those capital projects that I spoke about on the prior slide. You can see last year we didn't use as much money out of our capital reserve for summer projects. This year we have some big projects. We also have a maintenance reserve account, and we use those funds as a revenue source to pay for maintenance projects from year to year. Those are, minor repair projects within the district. And then you have your local tax levy. Our tax levy is increased over the prior year by 2%. That's the limit that the state allows us to increase our tax levy each year. There are some exceptions. We are allowed some waivers, and it's possible that it could go over that amount, but those waivers are for increased enrollments and increases in health benefits costs over 4%, and we have neither of those this year. So we have no waivers available to us to take, and so we're at the 2% level. That gives us additional revenue over the prior year of $527,000. And then we have some smaller revenue sources. We do get some tuition from individuals, from parents who send their students to our district who are from out of district. And then other local education agencies, other school districts send some of their special education students to our programs. And so we anticipate revenue of $176,000 for that purpose. We have some interest earnings on our reserves. We also rent our facilities out to outside groups, and we generate revenues from the rental of facilities. The restricted miscellaneous revenue athletic fees. Our students do pay for participation in athletic programs. The fee is $125 per year, but we don't anticipate increasing that fee for the following year. And then there's other miscellaneous revenues that we just kind of lump into one, bank interest, E-rate monies that we get for technology, and we sell SRECs for the solar panels that we have on the roof. And so those miscellaneous revenues are about $239,000. On the next slide, we'll continue with the revenues. And this is a look at our state aid. The state aid is actually broken down into different categories. Extraordinary aid is special education aid for special services for students. We get some non-public transportation aid. And then the categorical aids from the state. And the biggest is which is the equalization aid. And that's the one that they're reducing due to our decline in enrollment. And so you can see that our actual decline in the enrollment from the state, the decline in the state aid is 368,000 over the prior year. So that's a big reduction in state aid. The other two categories are ones that I estimate, and I did increase the estimates over the prior year based on what we had received last year. So their total state aid is a reduction of $303,000 in this budget. We get some small amount of federal aid for the Medicaid initiative, SEMI. It's a special education Medicaid initiative, so that's a minor amount. And then on the next slide, we can see that our special revenue fund, I talked about IDEA. Those are the federal monies that we get for special education. and then the title monies, the NCLB for underprivileged students, and the total special revenue funds are $471,837 in this budget, so that the and then the debt service, as I said, was 0. So then the total amount of the budget is then $40,522,553. The next slide focuses on the tax levy itself. Again, it's a summary. The tax levy is calculated taking the prior year tax levy and increasing it by the 2%, giving us the $527,000 for a total tax levy of $26,879,725. And this tax levy is distributed amongst the 3 towns that make up our district. It is apportioned in accordance with a formula that's given to us by the state. So the breakdown is that the Borough of Berlin will be responsible for $4,136,000 of that tax levy, and they're actually seeing a decrease in their tax levy over the prior year. The Borough of Gibbsboro will be responsible for $1.3 million of that tax levy, and unfortunately theirs is increasing over the prior year. And then Voorhees Township, our largest town, is going to be responsible for $21.4 million of that tax levy, and theirs is also an increase over the prior year. And on the next slide, shows you the municipal percent share. So these are the percentages that were used to allocate our total tax levy to the 3 towns. These percentages are actually calculated by the state and given to us to use to allocate our tax levy. And so you can see the change in that percent share over the prior year. Berlin's percent share went down by 7.6%. Gibbsboro's went up by 21%, and Voorhees's went up just slightly over the prior year. And those municipal percent shares are based on enrollment and equalized property values of the municipalities. And so that's why Gibbsboro's has gone up. It's tied to the enrollment of those students in our district, and again, of the equalized property values. And it is calculated by and given to us by the state. And then on the next slide, it will show you an idea of the impact as far as the increase or decrease in the annual taxes that a resident will pay due to this allocation and percent share and the 2% increase overall. So if you live in Berlin, then this decrease will be approximately $80 per year on a home that is assessed at the average assessment of $233,600. So if your assessed value on your home is $233,600, you will pay approximately $80 less per year. If your assessed value is larger than that, then your yearly impact will be larger. And the Borough of Gibbsboro, the average assessed value is $223,000 per home. So the average assessment will see an annual increase of $95 per year. And in the town of Voorhees Township, the average assessed value is $259,000. And that home would have an increase over the year of about $40 in their taxes. And then on the next slide, we're just showing you a little bit of history, past 7 years of what our tax levy increases have been. So for more than half of those years, we've stuck to the 2% increase in tax levy, but we did use some of those waivers last year and in the 15-16, 16-17 school year. We no longer have a vote on the budget in April. Our elections were moved to November. And so in November, we have the board member elections. And there are 3 seats available on our Board of Education in November. 2 seats will be available in Voorhees Township, and 1 seat will be available in Berlin Borough. And the petitions for getting onto the ballot to run for Board of Education are due in the county clerk's office by July 27th. So those forms are on the county website and they can be obtained there. And that's all I have right now. At this point in time, we would like to open the meeting to the public for comments on the budget. This is the budget hearing, and so right now we are just taking comments on the budget for 2020-2021 school year. On the screen should be a phone number and a PIN number that will allow you to call in to ask your questions. So this time we're going to pause and allow people to ask questions. It's not uncommon for us to not have any questions every year. So it may not be, but.
There is about a minute lag between us in this meeting and the YouTube live, so we will make sure that we are very patient before moving on.
And to be clear, Diana, the number was shown on the YouTube broadcast, but not on our Google
meeting.
Meet. Right. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. I can give you. I do have the number. Would you like me to announce the number? The phone number to call is 1-929-277-6009, and the PIN number is 246-781-575 #. Hello? Do you have a question?
No one yet, Diana,
Okay.
because I'd
You can say
have to let them in. So when they call in, it comes to me as the facilitator. So Mr. Smart is keeping me posted that the information is posted on YouTube, and just to be patient. So we'll give
Thank
it a
you,
little
Mr.
more time.
Cloutier. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Smart is giving me the all clear. He advises us to move on.
Okay.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt the 2020 and 2021 budget?
So moved.
Second.
It's moved in second. Do we have any final questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Chow,
Yes.
Mrs. David,
Yes.
Mr. Dykert,
Yes.
Mrs. Garr,
Yes.
Mrs. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Paul,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. DeChico.
Yes. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the resolution for capital projects?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved in second. Any questions? And roll call, please.
Mrs. David,
Yes.
Mr. Dykert,
Yes.
Mrs. Garr,
Yes.
Mrs. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Paul,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Chow,
Yes.
Mrs. Chow,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. DeChico.
Yes. We are moving the Scholar of the Month ahead for the public comment section, since we have a video for that. So at this time, I guess we have a presentation by Dr. Borda.
Bob, she may have just joined and maybe didn't hear that we're ready for her.
Yeah, I saw her just come in.
Okay.
Bob, you may want to just say that again.
Say what?
Tell her that she's ready to go.
Dr. Borda, do you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
We're ready
I'm
to start your presentation.
okay. I'm sorry about that. I'm having a lot of issues with my video right now, and I'm just hoping that the presentation will play without the delay that I'm having on the video. So someone will need to just give me a heads up if you're able to see my screen. I'll tell you when the presentation is up. Okay. Are you able to see the presentation?
No, I am not.
All right, Dr. Borda, let me see if I can bring it up. So if you have the unshare or visible, and then I can try bringing it up.
Unfortunately, right now, I can't even see the button to unshare.
All right, so let me see what happens when I try to bring it up.
Yeah, I can't actually even get out of this screen.
All right. I'm going to try bringing it up.
Okay.
All right. Oh, I'm starting with the science one.
Oh,
Are you okay to start with the science one?
sure, that's fine.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. The science one's really brief, so it'll be a really good test run. I don't see your screen. I don't see the presentation now.
It's not up yet.
Okay.
Okay. It's showing me that it's sharing. No one else sees it?
No.
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 All right. Let's try again.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. All right, so this presentation is just a few slides. It is our district data for the New Jersey assessment in the science. And the test changed in 2019, and it was only administered to juniors. In prior years, this was an end of course biology test that was given for students who were enrolled in biology, which at our district is predominantly freshmen. So we had 180 juniors who sat for the assessment. Next slide, please. This slide shows the breakdown of our scores on the assessment. So if you focus at the box, on the box at the bottom, you can see the percentage of Eastern students who scored proficient on the assessment is 26.7%. And that compares to the state. If we compare that to the state data, there was 27.3% of students who were proficient on that science assessment. So you can see the breakdown of the scores. In other state assessments, the levels go up to 5. And for the science assessment, they only gave performance levels of 1 through 4. Next slide. The state wants us to be reporting these assessment data by subgroups. And so the first bar shows that 26.7%, and we have that broken down by subgroups as well. So any subgroup that was smaller than 20 valid scores, we can't report for statistical purposes. Next slide. So the science assessment has been something that has changed very much from year to year from the state. As I said, it was in the last few years an end of course biology assessment. Before that, it was an assessment that was given. The history of it has changed a lot since my time in education and even before then. Eastern has continued to focus on providing a very rigorous science curriculum. We have a high number of our students taking AP courses. We have a wide variety of science AP courses available, in addition to the dual credit agreement that we have with Camden County College. And our students are earning a lot of dual credit in science classes. So we have really focused on that rigorous science curriculum and preparing our students to go on to science programs beyond Eastern. We're also very excited about the CTE, or Career and Technical Education program, that we are developing. Some things working with the state obviously have been delayed lately, so we're hoping that we can get at least the first year of that program running for next school year. And we're really looking forward to that relationship between our physics program and our engineering program in industrial arts. And we're continuing to do collaboration with the math, science, and industrial arts departments so that we can help create opportunities for students that are really hands-on and allow them to apply their knowledge across those different areas. And that's it for the science data. Okay. So this is presenting for me, so I'm assuming that everyone else is able to see it as well. So this is focusing on, again, assessment data, graduation data for last school year. So if we could go to the next slide, please. The school performance report does include some new metrics this year. I'm not going to go over the items, the bullets listed here tonight, but they're all available in the school performance plan. And I'll talk later about how you can access the full, school performance report. I'll talk at the end of the presentation about how the full 50-page document can be accessed through our district site. Next slide. This is a summary slide that shows our proficiency in math and ELA, English Language Arts, graduation rate, and absenteeism. I'm going to go into more depth on each one of these. So if we could go to the next slide, there's a better picture of this data. So on the left, the upper left-hand corner, there's a graph that displays our proficiency in English Language Arts over the past 3 years on the state assessment. So we can see growth from 2016 to our 2018-19 school year. And that the graph on the upper right-hand side is our math proficiency rate. And you can see that we also have an increase in the proficiency in math over the last 3 years. The table at the bottom shows the proficiency rate, which is in the graphs at the top. It also shows our participation rate for ELA and math, which have increased a lot from the 2016-17 year. And then what you can also see is that very bottom row is the state proficiency in each one of those areas over the last 3 years. So our ELA proficiency is 58.3% for last year, and for the state, it was 57.9. Okay, next slide. This is our 4-year and 5-year graduation trends for the last 3 cohorts. So you can see we're hovering, between 95 and 94%. For the 4-year graduation trend, and between 95 and 96% for the 5-year. Really, it's a handful of students that can make a difference in some of these trends. But if you look at the table at the bottom, all of the green numbers are Eastern's data, and the bottom row is the state data. So you can see that we clearly outperform the graduation rate of the state across the board. Next slide. Okay, this table shows how Eastern students achieve their graduation assessment requirement. So if we look at the top half, that's data for English Language Arts. And if you see the number 78.8, that is the percentage of our students who achieve their graduation assessment through some sort of alternative measure. So this could be the SAT, AP scores, PSAT scores. So really, most of our students get their graduation assessment requirements through an alternative measure, not through the statewide assessment. And the same thing is mirrored for math. Over 77% of our students use an alternative test, and only about 19% of our students use the state test. Next slide. This is some data about our English language learners. You can see that for the district, our ELL population is less than 1%. So we're talking less than 20 students for our ELL population. And the data on the right shows the growth that these students are making towards their English language proficiency. So they take an assessment to determine if they should still be on, if they're on track in terms of acquiring the language. Our overall district, so chronic absenteeism is defined by the state as any student who has 10% or more of the days enrolled, they are absent, regardless of whatever that reason is. It could be a student with some kind of a chronic medical condition, or it could be a student, whatever the reason is, it's not really taken into consideration here. Our district-wide chronic absenteeism rate from that first slide that I showed is 9.2%. And right here, the data are broken down by grade level. So you can see the dark blue is Eastern's data, and the light blue bars are statewide. So our chronic absenteeism is much lower than the state percentages across the board. Of course, you can see that our 12th graders do have the highest chronic absenteeism compared to the other grade levels. And chronic absenteeism or attendance is one of our district goals. And so we are trying to come up with some ways to address attendance by having students be enrolled in programs that can allow them to have credit for attendance in ways that are going to be engaging for them. So we are trying to work on programming to address absenteeism in some other ways. Next slide. These next two slides show teacher demographic information. And you can see that question underneath the title says, do the students in our classrooms have the opportunity to be led by diverse teachers? So this is, data that we're required to include here. And you can see this is the state level data. So over 80% of teachers in the state are classified as white, where about 40% of students in the state are. So the state level data here helps as a frame of reference when we look at our school data, which is in the next slide. And so you can see that this is a trend that's essentially mirrored at Eastern. I know that the teacher preparation programs are doing a lot to try and recruit a more diverse student body. And so we look forward to having a more diverse group of candidates when we're looking for new faculty members. Next slide. The next two slides show college and career readiness measures. So you can see the top there, 78.6% of our students take the SAT. The thing here that really stands out to me is if you look at the fourth green number down, that's the percentage of Eastern students, 11th and 12th graders enrolled in dual enrollment courses compared to the state. So obviously our dual enrollment programs are something that we're very proud of. And as Mr. Cloutier said earlier in tonight's meeting, it's an area that we are continuing to grow in our relationship with community colleges and local universities. And underneath that number, right now we have 0% of our students in CTE, but we are, Mrs. Ryan is working diligently on getting our first CTE program in a while underway again. So we're really looking forward to increasing that number. Next slide. This is showing the percentage of our students who are enrolled in different elective areas, essentially, in the arts. So we have 40.4% of our students enrolled in art courses, which is a little lower than the state numbers. And then it's broken down: music, dance. We do not have a dance course. Drama, obviously we have a very successful drama program, but we don't have any courses in that area. And then the data broken down for visual arts. So again, we're looking here at a subgroup of students. So we're looking at the economically disadvantaged students. So the green numbers are Eastern data. The first column is our economically disadvantaged students at Eastern. And the second column is comparing it to the total Eastern population. So you can see that roughly 13% of our students are economically disadvantaged. And they're, here we have their performance as compared to the whole student body. Where we do see great success, actually, if you look at the graduation rates for our economically disadvantaged students, they're very quite high, even compared to our total Eastern population. And our secondary enrollment for economically disadvantaged students compared to the state, again, we're on par there. Clearly, we have some work to do with this particular population and the chronic absenteeism. So that's an area that we will need to focus. Over the last year, our school security committee has done a lot of work in conjunction with support from the Board of Education, and some of the things that we've done, establishing, when we were allowed to have visitors in the building, a revised procedure for the two-part lobby at the main entrance, strengthening the school perimeter, and of course, most recently installing the strobe system for lockdowns. And then you can see here a breakdown of all of our safety offenses in the district. So this is just a pure count. And then at the very bottom is a statistic, incidents per 100 students as compared to the state. On the left-hand side, you can see this is student supports and services, a list of the variety of services that we provide to students, things that you would expect, like English language learners, 504 committee, And then toward the bottom of the list, you see the academic coaching program, which is something that has been supported through Title I funds, which is something Diana spoke about under the budget. So that's an initiative that has been really working very closely to help freshmen succeed. So that's one of our support services. And then you can also see on the table the breakdown of our student to staff ratios in each of these different support areas. Okay, this is a breakdown of our post-secondary enrollment. About 88% of our students are attending 2 or 4-year colleges. Of course, very prestigious universities. We do have 2% pursuing employment and 2% entering the military. And then you can see the breakdown of each subgroup and comparing that from our district to the state. And clearly we have a much higher percentage of our students matriculating in a post-secondary program as compared to the state. So this is a summary of some of the highlights from the the school performance report. You can see the areas where we met the target, where we did not meet the target. So on the far right, some of the areas with the chronic absenteeism. The one thing to kind of keep in mind when we're looking at this data is sometimes these subgroups are very small and sometimes there is an overlap. A student may be economically disadvantaged and also have a disability. And so sometimes if it's a small group and that student, may fit into more than one group, they can have a large impact on the statistics there. The graduation rate, I mentioned that we are far exceeding the state average in all of those areas. And so, our graduation rate is remaining very high. So the target there, it's not quite clear how we didn't meet that. And if we did, it would have been, you see that the 5-year graduation rates we're meeting the goal in that regard. And then at the bottom, some concerns with our students with disabilities. Some years we see proficiency in these areas with our students with disabilities, and sometimes in years we have growth to do. And clearly that was the case with the data from last year. The last couple of slides this is a 1-page summary report that the state provides. It's a little hard to read in this format, but that is something that is available. So if we go to the next slide, the last few slides are just information and that the state wants to provide about how to get to the performance report. But we will link the performance report and this presentation on our district website after tonight's Board of Education meeting. Yeah, so these are just slides that show, again, how to access that report. And there's my contact if anybody has any other questions or some additional resources listed from the state. That should be it.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bora.
Thank you all for your patience with the technology.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you, Krista.
Very good job.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, it's Jude here.
Okay.
Dr. Borda, you show our math is still below the state at 42.2 versus 44.4. Well, how's that trend line look over the last few years? I feel like we've been getting better, right? Is that accurate? Or do we not have that data readily available?
Nope. So if we looked at one of those first few slides, our proficiency rate has definitely increased over the past 3 years, 29.9% in 2016-17, 38.3% the next year, and 42.2% this year. The one thing that you have to remember, I also said that about 79%, I think, of our students do not use the state assessment as their method for getting graduation, that graduation requirement. And so some of our best students haven't, because of, I think, the mixed messages from some of the, the confusing messages about some of these requirements, we haven't always had that full participation of our whole student body from year to year. So sometimes it's hard to compare.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Sure.
Okay, any more questions? At this time, I will open the meeting to the members of the public. We have several items from the student representatives to the board, and also our Scholar of the Month presentation. Mr. Katir, would you take that over?
I think you lost him, Bob.
No, I'm here. I'm just waiting for acknowledgement that it's sharing.
It's up on the screen.
Looks like you just have to press play.
All right. I was just waiting for Mr. Smart on the YouTube end. All right, here we go.
It seems like there's a problem with the volume, at least on my end. I hear someone talking, but it's very faint.
Yes, me too.
Oh, it's very faint.
AP English, AP Environmental.
There we go.
AP Statistics, AP US 1, AP Bio, and pretty much every honor and AP course that we offer here at Eastern. This young man boasts a weighted grade point average of 102.074. He also boasts a verbal score in the SAT of 760 and a math score of 780. I don't know what happened to the 20 points, but we'll talk about that later. His athletic involvement here at Eastern he's been a football player for 3 years, and he's also played lacrosse. His extracurricular involvement includes being a member of DECA, Student Council, Interact, as well as the National Honor Society. His honors and awards that he's received at Eastern include being inducted into the National Honor Society, being a part of the Principal's Honor Roll. He received the Achievement Award in AP Bio and U.S. History, and he was named as a National Commended Merit Scholar. His community activities includes volunteering through his youth group, as well as helping tutor students after school through the NHS. His cultural involvement activities includes being a member of his church youth group, and his work experience includes him working for 2 years at the nonprofit Philly Food Rescue and Uplift Solutions. He also worked as a PTA at the 3DPT. Now, I've said enough about him, and now I'll let him talk to you about his career aspirations and where he's going to take his talents beyond Eastern. Chase Durstrom.
Hello, board. It's first and foremost, I thank you for having me here, even though it's virtually. And as Dr. Toll said, for my career aspirations, I hope to one day work on Wall Street at an investment bank. And to do that, I'm going to study finance and mathematics at Pennsylvania State University. And I don't think any of that would be possible without your commitment to furthering my education and also with my unique interactions with teachers I've had at Eastern. I never even knew what I wanted to do later in life, but sophomore year in my AP macroeconomics class, we did a unit on the 2008 recession, and then we learned about the stock market and investing. And since then, Mr. Murphy's taken me under his wing, and really within myself, interest in the economy and in money has flourished. And without Eastern, without the committed teachers and a sense of community that extends beyond the classroom, I don't think I'd be able to realize what I want to do later in life and be on the pathway to achieving that. So I thank you.
Good evening. I have the distinct pleasure of presenting our Student Scholar of the Month for the month of April 2020, Miss Sarah Tutterman. Tonight she's joined virtually with us by her father, Sean, mother, Jenna, and sister, Sasha. Let me tell you a little bit about this young lady's academic career history at Eastern. She's taken AP English Literature, Composition, AP Psychology, Probability and Statistics, Health and PE, and she's actually taken ASL, American Sign Language, at Camden County College. Some of her prior courses include Advanced Honors English 1, Advanced Honors English 2, AP English Language Composition, World History, U.S. History Honors, AP U.S. History 2, Geometry, Algebra 2 and Pre-Calculus, Biology, Chemistry, AP Environmental Science, Preschool and Child Development, Personal Finance, Graphic Arts, and Introduction to Sociology, Spanish 1 Honors, Spanish 2 Honors, and Spanish 3 Honors. This young lady boasts a 101.305 grade point average. She also has a verbal score of 670 and a math score of 660. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this young lady's involvement, because she's just not about the books. She's also an active member of the Interact Club. She's a newspaper illustrator. She's involved in Student Alliance, Key Club, and she functions as a guidance aide. Some of the honors she has received includes being a member of the National Honor Society, Spanish Honor Society, Rho Kappa National Social Studies Honor Society. She's been on the Distinguished Honor Roll all 4 years at Eastern. She has been
I think we lost him, Rob.
Okay, I'm gonna try to bring it back up.
It's still mute.
Hey, Robert, maybe go back to see if it's in the recording. Go back in time when we knew there was audio.
There is audio playing on my end.
some of the honors she has received includes being a member of the National Honor Society, Spanish Honor Society, Rho Kappa National Social Studies Honor Society. She's been on the Distinguished Honor Roll all 4 years at Eastern. She has received the Spanish 1 Honors Award, as well as this Preschool and Child Development Award. Some of the community activities she's involved in include being a volunteer at the Gift of Life Family House in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She is actively involved in the Benign Birth Youth Organization. She works at the CER Care as a CER Care Counselor at E.T. Hamilton School in the Voorhees School System. Now, I've told you a lot about what she's done. Now I'll let her talk to you about her career aspirations and where she's planning to take her talents beyond Eastern Regional High School. Sarah Tutterman.
Standing by my locker freshman year, I will never forget when Dr. Toll walked up to me and shook my hand. When we began discussing how I was surviving my first year at Eastern, he was still oblivious to who I was. Yet, when I introduced myself, he narrowed his eyes and shook his head, as if trying to place where he heard my name before. Almost instantaneously, Dr. Toll gasped and exclaimed, "You made the Distinguished Honor Roll. remembering my name from the exclusive list of students who earned all A's that semester. As a Gibby kid coming to Eastern from a mere class of 20 students, I was fearful of becoming just another number in such a large school. However, from that moment, my fear subsided. Embracing my new school and identity as a high schooler for the next 4 years, I was unaware of the impact Eastern would have on me, not only as a student, but as a person. I discovered my passion for working with children in room 18 with Mrs. Bound, able to express my creativity and become a leader. I was challenged in all of my AP courses, but also vitally encouraged by my teachers as they pushed me to reach my full potential. With the inspirational Dr. Leeson, I recognize my unique voice and capabilities. Although I may not be the loudest in class, Dr. Leeson, along with self-professed introvert Mrs. Stellar, embraced and fostered my quiet strength. Furthermore, Eastern's acknowledgement of my academic dedication when I was invited into the National Honor Society, Rho Kappa Social Studies Honor Society, and Spanish Honor Society, and now, as Scholar of the Month, allow for my own recognition of my academic potential and motivate me to succeed. My love of learning will never cease, cultivated by my teachers from Goodsboro School and strengthened by my teachers at Eastern, shaping me into the person I am today. Specifically, thank you Mrs. Bound, Dr. Leeson, and Mrs. Stellar for helping me find my voice. Thank you to the Board of Education for this prestigious honor. And lastly, Dr. Toll, thank you for that simple introduction freshman year that prompted me to make my mark at Eastern. As I embark on the next step in my journey, a speech-language pathology student at Duquesne University, I will always be proud to have been an Eastern Viking. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Donnelly. I am a senior here at Eastern, and tonight I'm here with my brother, who's a sophomore at Eastern, and his name is Nate Donnelly, and then I'm also here with my mom, Susan Donnelly, who also happens to work for Voorhees Administration, and I'm also here with my dad, Bill Donnelly, who happens to be Deputy Chief of Voorhees Police. So my entire family is very involved in the entire Eastern and Voorhees area. To start off, at Eastern, I am involved in many different clubs and sports. I am a part of the Interact Club, Student Alliance, National Honor Society, National Spanish Honor Society. I am the vice president of the class of 2020 for the past 3 years. I was also a softball player for freshman and sophomore year of my high school. And I also happen to be the varsity football manager for the past 4 years. So some of the things that really were super important to me was my class officer position, which is vice president. And it was so much fun because I got to meet such amazing people, and the leadership skills have really helped me for everything. It actually helped me get involved with some summer programs called RILA, which is the Rotary Youth Leadership Conference. And I just love the experience, and I hope that I can continue this in college. Another thing that was also very important to me was the football team. So I come from Berlin Community School is the middle school and elementary school that I went to. And that is a very small school compared to Eastern. So I was a little bit nervous about my transition there. But joining the football team in the summer of my freshman year was super important because I got to meet so many new people, including Nigel Robertson, who also happens to be a student representative tonight. And I'm so grateful for all of them, and they just all mean the world to me, and it just gave me so much experience with meeting and talking to new people, and especially traveling with the team and just getting to know everyone. So those were 2 things that were super important to me at Eastern. I would also like to thank a few teachers, including Mr. Malone, who happened to help me with my major. So I am going to James Madison University for engineering and architecture, and I hope to continue my career and be an architectural engineer. Mr. Malone has helped me through everything, starting me on my career path. And on the first day of school, he actually asked me, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I told him an engineer. And since then, I've been working with him for 4 years, and he's really helped me with my career path. I would also like to thank Ms. DeCourcy and Ms. Pearson-Yaus for being my advisors and helping me in my student government position. They are like my second family, my student government. we are all super close, and I know I can go to them for anything, and they have really helped me get out of my shell a little bit and get to know different people. I would also like to thank Mr. Fulton, or Mike Fulton, and because he helped me with pushing myself kind of and challenging myself in my writing, and he has definitely made me a better writer and a lot better in school. I would also like to thank everyone for having me here. Basically.
Good evening. My name is Nigel Robertson. I'm a senior at Eastern Regional High School. Today, I'll be introducing and joined by my parents, my mother, Conchetta, and my father, Floyd, and possibly my two brothers, Alvin Dean and Nasir Robertson. Throughout my time at Eastern Regional High School, I participated in various sports such as varsity football, wrestling, and track. A few clubs I participated in. I participated in DECA, and I participated in the Interact Club, where I did community service and learned about furthering business in that field. Throughout my years as a high school football player, I created a lot of strong bonds that I feel like I'll never forget. I did get injured in my sophomore year of my final regular season game, and I was put into physical therapy for a year. And that experience led me to want to major in physical therapy in college, and because I really liked how I saw people be helped by physical therapists and other things such as that. And I've now after that experience, I was able to want to chase a major in physical therapy at college that I will be attending, which is Juniata College in Huntington, Pennsylvania, where I'll be playing football and possibly running track. Thank you very much for choosing me for Student Representative of the Month, Dr. Toll, Mr. Pico, Mr. Smart. I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
All right, very, very nice that we were able to add our students and recognize our teachers by our students. So that was wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Toll, Mr. Pico, Mr. Smart, and especially Mr. Catania in our technology department for doing the editing and putting that all together. So very much appreciated. So again, we will pause and be patient in the public section of this meeting, and I'll wait for any cues from Mr. Smart from the YouTube feed. So again. Okay, Mr. Smart's giving me the cue. We're only running about a 15-second lag. So Mr. Smart advises us to move on.
Okay. Again, thank you to the students and the fine presentations. At this time, we will close the meeting for public comment and move into purchases and investments. I need a motion to approve items 1 through 8.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? And roll call, please.
Please do remember to undo your mic.
Thank you. Mr. Dykert? Mr. Dykert?
He may have dropped. I'm going to try to call him back in.
Mrs. Gar?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Chow?
Yes.
Mrs. David?
Yes.
Mr.
Mr.
Dykert,
Dykert?
yes.
And
Yes.
Mr.
Do
DeChica?
you hear me now?
Thank you. Yes, I can. Mr. DeChica? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, under matters of personnel, motion to approve items 1 through 13.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Moved in second. Are there any questions?
14.
Is there 14, Bob?
Yeah.
1 through 14?
Because we added.
There was one added late today.
New staff, right?
Okay. Yeah, I printed this earlier.
Okay. And Mrs. Chow was the first. Could you do the first and second? I'm sorry.
I think I was first, Jude.
And I think I was second.
Oh, Hillary, thank you.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Gar?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Chow?
Yes.
Mrs. David?
Yes.
Mr. Dykert? Mr. Dykert?
I think we lost him again.
Okay. And Mr. DeChica?
Yes, and I will recuse on the new staff hiring of Mr. Varel.
Okay.
Okay, education, Mrs. David.
May I have a motion to approve item 1 for homebound instruction?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
I'm here.
Okay. And Dennis, your vote on personnel?
Yes.
Education.
Right. Sorry, I was backing up, Gail.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
On education, I have a first of Mrs. Gar and a second of Mrs. Parker.
Okay. Any discussion? And roll call, please.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Chow?
Yes.
Mrs. David?
Yes.
Mr. Dykert?
Yes.
Mrs. Gar?
Yes.
Mr. DeChica?
Yes. Okay, we have no items for policy, so we'll move to athletics. Mr. Paul.
May I have a motion for line item number 1?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion? And roll call.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Chow?
Yes.
Mrs. David?
Yes.
Mr. Dykert?
Yes.
Mrs. Gar?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. DeChica?
Yes. We have no items for student activities, so we'll move to finance. Bob Campbell.
Can I please have a motion for items 1 through 22?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved in second. Do we have any discussion on 1 through 22?
Yeah, I wanted to mention number 10. We're awarding our project that we had in the budget for the new rooftop units of the gymnasium. Our architects have been working on that to get those bids out for us. So we are awarding that this evening. And then I wanted to mention number 20, the sale of SRECs. We did sell some SRECs this week, and that will give us revenue of $32,318. So the total for the year since last April was $181,000 in revenue for the solar SRECs.
Wow.
So it's really working out very, very well
Wow.
for us. Yep.
I have a question on item 22. Do we have
Yes.
any details on that yet?
That's the Herf Joan graduation ceremony.
Yes.
Rob, did you want to talk about that, or you want me to talk about it?
Well, if you have the contract available in front of you, it does go into some details. So Herf Jones, we have an existing relationship with Herf Jones through our yearbook. And there are different vendors providing virtual ceremony, programming, and platforming. So we chose to go with Herf Jones because they already have access to our student pictures and such. But that is the base. So we wanted to make sure we do have a ceremony to culminate the year for our seniors. So we wanted to make sure that was in place and we could start planning on that aspect. But we're going to continue to look at other avenues for the celebration. And again, if any on-campus activities are permitted, we are even contacting 2 vendors that provide a drive-in theater, mobile drive-in theater. So giant screen and speakers for cars. So we're going to consider every possibility. We're getting suggestions from students and parents, and we'll run those down as well. And again, given the circumstances, what we'll be permitted to do, we will be prepared to do the best that we can given the circumstances. And we will be working with our students and our parents on making some final plans for the graduation ceremony.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
And if I could just add, Mr. Pico did tell me that Herf Jones actually does this for universities, so they have a lot of experience doing this.
Great.
So there's a lot of good services out there that can help us.
It's such an important day that I'm glad we're looking at all kinds of alternatives.
I do have a question about the quote that was provided, though, Diana. It says the item number 4 of what's included says the opportunity to download the exclusive clips for 1 year after the ceremony. Is that for fee or for free or for charge? Do we know? Did they?
Well, I assume I'm not certain, but I assumed it was part of the $5,000 fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
But we can get some details for you. But it seemed to me that it was included.
Yeah. The wording is a little bit, the opportunity to download. Is making me a little bit nervous.
I'll clarify with Mr. Pico. That's a good point.
Okay, any other questions? Roll call on items 1 through 22.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Chow?
Yes. Now, do we have to recuse for that conference?
Yes. Yes.
Recuse on 4.
Yes. And I'll take care of that so that it reflects properly in the minutes for everyone. Mrs. David?
Great. Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. Mr. Dykert?
Yes.
Mrs. Garr?
Yes, recuse on 5.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Paul?
Yes, recuse on 3.
And Mr. DeChico?
Yes, recuse on 4.
Thank you.
All right, I did receive a communication. Oh, Mr. Brown, Mrs. Schiraldi.
Yes, recuse on 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Brown. You're right.
Sorry.
I forgot you.
I just did receive a communication from Mr. Pico. We will own the video.
Oh,
Okay,
Great.
Thank you.
thank you, Rob.
okay. Moving on to property, Dennis, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
We can.
All right. Would like to make a motion to approve item 1 in property, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I do have a comment. C.
Second.
Yeah, Mrs. Gar. Jazz Unlimited for the auditorium in June. So we don't know if people will be allowed in the facility.
No. I think any of these
Right.
are subject to cancellation.
Right.
Okay.
It's, as far as I know, it has not been canceled as of today.
That wasn't me either.
It was Hillary.
I'm sorry. I had my phone queued up for
Hillary's
something
phone
else.
go off? Nah, come on.
Let's have a roll
Sorry.
call.
Okay.
Wait, I have a question too
Yes.
Oh.
about that Jazz Unlimited. If our school is closed, they're not going to be able to use
Correct.
that, even if they didn't cancel it. So
No,
they're going to have
Correct.
to
They would
cancel
be
it.
informed. Right.
Yeah,
our facilities are subject to cancellation.
right.
So,
Okay.
okay.
So a
you.
decision will have to be made at some
Right.
point. I
Yes.
mean,
Right.
you know, if they
Okay.
allow, yeah, that's a big group. That's a big group.
Yeah.
Huge group.
Yeah. Yes.
Roll call, please.
Okay.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Chow,
Yes.
Mrs. David,
Yes.
Mr. Dykert,
Yes.
Mrs. Gar,
Yes.
Mrs. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Paul,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Uchiko.
Yes. Executive Planning Committee,
Oh, you want me to do that one? Motion to approve items, where the heck is it?
no.
No.
Oh.
We're in the
on
committees.
Oh, we're on
committee
committee already.
report. Yeah.
Oh, I thought I had a question about tech report. Okay, sorry. Committees. Oh, executive planning. Yeah, I'm all messed up here. Okay.
I won't touch
plan-
that one.
Executive planning. So obviously the bulk of our update is the interviewing of the BA candidates and reaching final resolution, which we read into minutes today. I think given the circumstances, everyone did a great job on the interviewing and the interviewee side. Beyond that, that's bulk of our update for executive planning.
Okay, negotiations, we held a virtual meeting with the association last week. We have another one scheduled for next week. Still discussing some items, not much agreed upon at this point.
Okay.
Technology, Hillary?
Well, everybody did get a copy of the report, but just for the record, number 2 through number 10 items were related to remote learning and remote Board of Ed meeting. And number 15, coordinating transfer of technology to the new Ella site with the contractor. But everybody does have a copy of the report if they want to read specific things. And Jude, you had a question?
Yeah, I mean, that was that item 15 just prompted me to ask what's the status with Ella? It's
Right.
maybe not appropriate here, but it just prompted me to think, has that been
Yeah,
put on
that's-
hold or what?
They are, I do know, Jude, they are waiting for a certificate of occupancy. So
okay.
they're waiting on the township to issue the CO. And really after that, we can move in. But we have not started paying rent on there. We said that we needed a CO before that would begin. And they agreed. So we're just waiting on the township.
Diana, what does the lease say with respect to when do we take over as a tenant?
Well, when the space is ready. And to me, that's when you get a CO.
Okay, so we're not going to push for the CO because right now the students are not coming in.
Right.
Well, but we're still paying rent on the old location.
Right.
So in my opinion, we will move when we can because the rent is less on the new location.
Oh, okay.
Well, should we put a call into the township code enforcement to get that going?
I mean, we could give a call, sure. I mean, the contractor has been handling that, you know, the leaser's contractor has been handling that.
Okay, but as far as
we've been communicating through the real estate agent. And so, you know, she's kind of been the go-between between us and the lessor. So she's, you know, been working with us. But we can put a call in there.
Okay. Thank you.
I had some idea that they were closed or on limited hours. I'm not sure, Diana.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we can still call. I'm just saying, I think that's part of the holdup is that not everything is functioning full speed here.
Yeah, I mean, getting a CO means an inspection, and that's people coming out, and so, yeah, not quite sure what's taking so long, but
Masks and gloves.
right.
Okay, Bob, anything on Camden County School Boards? Bob Paul?
No, nothing that I have to report on. Everything was canceled so far.
Right. Hillary, anything on New Jersey?
No, I haven't heard anything. And to be honest, I certainly don't want to sit in a crowd at this point. So I haven't heard anything.
Understood.
Especially going up towards North Jersey. No.
Mm-hmm.
Municipal Alliance?
Yeah, I'll just very briefly. Project Graduation is still selling their lawn signs at $20 each. And the deadline is May 15th. So hopefully we'll see lots of signs around to help them celebrate. The other news I have about the Municipal Alliance was our funds were frozen by the governor, which goes back to January. So expenditures that were made in the third quarter are not being paid. And the money that was for the Alliance is going towards their budget due to COVID-19. And we're uncertain as to whether Municipal Alliance will even exist. So we're just waiting to hear. Thank you.
Such a shame. They do such good work.
It's a grassroots programs. Yeah.
Elaine, I have a question about
Yes.
the project graduation funds.
Yes.
Can they purchase the lawn signs for every senior and put them on the lawns rather than
that's
have
a nice
the
idea.
parents,
That's a great
rather
idea.
than have the parents
Yes.
pay the $20? I mean,
Yeah.
that they're not going to be able to go to project graduation.
No. So I will forward your comments to our chairperson. I think that's a good idea. Let's see what they think.
I have a question as well, or a suggestion.
Yes.
Is it possible maybe also to have signs for anyone else that does not have a graduating senior that says like, I support graduating seniors at Eastern, or something where, you know, the entire town can get involved in supporting them?
That's a great idea. I think that would be, if people wanted to purchase them, or are you asking whether Project Graduation would use their funding to do that?
People can purchase them themselves.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I'll pass that along.
Well, I would put a
Certainly.
sign up for sure.
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anything on Ed Services, for Veronica?
Yes, we actually just had a board meeting right before this meeting, and a couple of things to report. They are applying for a grant for the next 3 years for it's called the Stop Violence Grant.
And they will be, if they receive it, they'll be partnering up with an app provider called Stop It. And it will be to help with bullying, mental health issues, and harassment. And it'll be a very easy to use platform system where anyone can report anything that is happening so that different people can take action on this. Another thing to report is Mr. Del Vecchio is working on equity issues to start bringing internet services to all the population in New Jersey of students, which is roughly about 90,000 that do not have access to internet at this time. And they're just sent out a written RFP looking for a provider that will partner up with them to do this. And lastly, their esports initiative, I believe they just sent it to Community Affairs, and they are issuing an RFP to look for providers to respond. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Gail, anything in the library?
Nothing to report for the library.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions on any of the tech reports, student activities, guidance?
Yeah, a question about the guidance. I see mention of the scholarship deadlines. Obviously, with school not opening, there's no academic awards. Is there any thought given to remote academic awards, or how are we presenting that?
Yes, we will have a virtual academic awards ceremony. Again, we're considering whether to use a professional service to help us put that all together, or if we could do so internally. But yes, there will be a academic awards ceremony where our seniors receive the scholarships, and we are moving forward with the academic awards for students for each class. But Dr. Toll did let me know that the machinist is not operating at this time, so the awards themselves will not be ready. But we will be making different ways to recognize the students now, and then when the awards are ready, we will present those. So yes, the academic awards ceremony will happen. We're most likely going to move it to June instead of the end of May. But just like graduation, we are planning that to be virtual. And we're also discussing different plans for the different National Honor Societies. Certainly, we want to make sure every student who's earned the achievement is recognized now. And that was expressed to us from a parent who was very helpful. You know, it's important for our students to know their achievements when they're preparing their college applications. So we're moving forward with all of those timelines in terms of compiling the students who meet the criteria and then recognizing them, and then the ceremonies themselves we'll plan as best we can. Academic awards, graduation at a minimum will be virtual. Something like National Honor Society will be recognized now, but we have the possibility, if we come back in September or October, holding the National Honor Society induction ceremony. So we're looking at the entire time span. So it's not just June where we will stop thinking about how to recognize what students have earned this year. So yes, that planning is ongoing as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good to hear.
Any matters for old business or new business? Okay, I will again open the meeting for public comment. We will give the public a minute or so if they want to make any phone calls or questions. Now, I know this is a virtual meeting, so before we go into executive session, we usually take a break.
Yeah.
So I hope you all enjoy your
You're making us hungry.
That's a good one.
Very cool.
Where's the cake? I need the cake.
Did we get it all clear, Rob, or?
Still waiting. It is posted. Give it another 30 seconds.
Okay.
Please go ahead, Mr. Tashiko.
Okay. We need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
With the second. Okay, how do we do this, Mr. Katir?
Okay, I have not set up the executive session because I wanted to make sure this was completely closed and we leave this and go to the executive session. So let's say
Okay.
at 9, we come back together at 9 p.m. Let's stretch out our legs, and at 9 p.m. we'll come back into executive session. And it's only an update. There's no action being taken on any of the items being discussed during executive session. So we do not have to come back to the public for a public session. Okay, so
Are we using the same link, or is there a different link for it?
I will be sending you a new link. So
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's very important that everybody logs out of this one so it disappears and nobody is in the wrong
Okay.
virtual meeting when we go to executive.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I don't know who that is.
What is that? Phil, do you hear me?